Messages. Compose, reply, and forward a message.
In this video, you will learn how to compose a message, how to respond to a message, which includes adding a note to the message, forwarding a message to another user, and replying to the sender or other recipients. You will also learn how to view messages on the document list.
When composing a message, there are two options. The system level icon, which opens as an independent pop-up, so you don't have to stop what you're doing, or select the Messages tab, Compose, which opens as the dominant screen, forcing you to stop what you're doing. In both cases, the required fields are the same, and the patient that is active in your temporary cache will default as the reference patient, though this can be changed as applicable. In our first example, I'm going to log in as the medical assistant Connor Walsh, and I'm updating the demographics for Alvin Ackerman. Now let's suppose I get a call that requires the doctor's attention. So I want to send an urgent message to the back office, but I do not want to stop what I'm doing. I will click the Compose Message icon in the system tray. By doing this, a pop-up appears over your existing screen. You'll recall from the Messages Overview and Inbox video that there are various types or priorities of messages. Initially, new messages default as normal, which means it will be delivered into the recipient's inbox and there will be no alert to that recipient. For urgent messages, the recipient will receive an alert once they change or refresh the screen, or upon their next login, whichever applies in conjunction with several properties, which can be set per local preference. Telephone messages do not require a recipient. However, if they are sent to a user, they are treated as normal priority, meaning there is no alert to the user. Telephone messages are attached to the patient's document list, whether or not they are sent to a recipient. After identifying your priority, the next step is to add the recipients. There are three user types: medics, patients, or roles. You'll notice for each option there is an auto-complete master search as indicated by the white text field with the binocular. The medics option lets you enter or search for any user within the system. As you see here in the search screen, you can search by medics type under which each user profile is created. For practices that use the patient portal, there is the option of addressing messages to patients. You'll note the search includes only patients with email address. Email addresses are stored under the patient register and must be correct, with the name @domain.com in order to display in the search. It's important to understand that when sending an email to a patient, a one-line message is delivered to the patient's personal external email account, for example, their Yahoo or Gmail, that advises the patient to log into the patient portal in order to view the actual message. Refer to the patient portal series of videos for more information regarding such online messages. The third option is to address a message to roles, which are distribution lists. As discussed in the user roles and permission video, any user role can be defined as a distribution list, which allows you to send a message to multiple people without individually addressing it to each one. You'll notice that there is also a fourth option, to send a message to yourself. By default, all messages are automatically saved into the sender's outbox. However, at times a user may prefer to have a copy in his or her inbox, so it can be monitored more closely. As we discussed in the Messages Overview video, messages can be flagged as unread and kept at the top of the inbox. Hence, a user may like that convenience, especially to follow up on to-do messages that have been sent. You'll see the names have been populated as they are selected, and you can send the same message to any combination of users or patients at the same time. If you notice a mistake, you can use the Clear Last hyperlink to remove the last recipient added. Next, we have the Reference Patient field. In my case, you'll notice that it has defaulted to Alvin Ackerman because that is the chart I have in focus and was working on when I clicked the Compose Message icon. In this case, I do not want the message to reference to my current patient, but rather the patient that the phone call is regarding. So I'm going to click the Clear hyperlink, which removes the current patient, and then using the Autocomplete Master Search, I will enter the correct one. After addressing the message and referencing the correct patient, the next step is to compose the actual message content. The design of patient messages is such that your data entry can be kept to a minimum while still labeling the message precisely as to its content. This allows you to quickly communicate with an appropriate level of detail, but with minimal data entry and keystrokes. First, we have the action field, which is a user-defined group type that allows you to create frequent actions or tasks. By assigning such an action value, lengthy text can be avoided, unless it's necessary for explaining that action. You'll see here some standard values such as call the patient, schedule an appointment, or order a lab test. This value is displayed on the chart and can be used for sorting the document list, which makes it easier to locate a specific message when needed. We will see the value of this later in our video when discussing the document list. You'll see that my value has defaulted to none. There is a system property which allows you to assign a specific action code to default for users by their medics type, for example, the doctor, the clinical, or the MA. The due and day field is only relevant when creating a to-do task, which is discussed in a separate video. We are going to discuss the subject and message together. Both are required to save or send a message, and both fields are free tags. In addition, the message field allows you to custom define canned narratives, which enables you to quickly document certain scenarios. Now, although both fields are required, only one must be physically keyed. It will default if necessary when saving or sending the message. Please note that it is the subject that displays on the patient's document list as an identifier, as we will see later in this video. The Attach button allows you to attach any document from the patient's chart that has been either scanned or system generated, such as progress notes, procedure forms, etc. Finally, at the bottom of the Compose message screen is the Add to Patient Medical Records checkbox. This option is not mandatory, and it is only available when referencing a patient. If a patient is not referenced, this option is disabled. Its purpose is to save a copy of this message to the patient's chart, where it appears on the document list. The option may be set at the system level. Similar to the property we saw regarding the action code, there's also a system property which allows you to set this field as either selected or deselected by default for users by their medics type, or it can be individually assigned ad hoc per each message. Composing a message using the Messages Compose tab has the same behavior, however, the screen becomes the dominant screen, forcing you to stop what you're doing. Now we're going to take a look at how to respond to a message. As discussed in the Messages Overview video, there are system and user messages. System messages are covered in a separate video, so we're going to look at the user messages here. To view the message itself, click on the sender's name. There are three possible ways to respond to a user message. Each option has a different behavior with regards to how it is or is not saved to the patient's chart. You can add a note to the existing message to create a conversation or a thread similar to a chat forum. You can reply to the sender and all the other recipients, or you could forward the message to another user. The message launches in read-only mode, with only the Notes field enabled for data entry. Type your comment free text up to 5,000 characters. You'll notice that in this case the Add to Patient Medical Records checkbox is disabled, but shows as selected when the original message is saved to the patient's chart. Any note entered is automatically appended to the original entry on the patient's document list, rather than creating a duplicate. In this way, the message serves as a conversation or thread at the chart level. The second option is to reply only to the sender or reply all when there are multiple recipients on the original message. Upon clicking the reply button, the original message opens in data entry mode. The Done checkbox is enabled when applicable to indicate when a to-do message has been completed. This is discussed in more detail in the To-Do Messages video. Unlike the previous example, the Add to Patient Medical Records box is enabled and selected by default when replying, so you can decide if you want the response saved or not. If you leave it selected, a duplicate entry will be added to the document list with "re" in the subject line, indicating that it's a reply. The final way to respond to a message is to forward it to a different user. Similar to replying, as we just saw, the original message opens in data entry mode. Also, similar to the previous example, the Add to Patient Medical Records checkbox is enabled. If you select the checkbox, a duplicate entry will display on the document list with forward in the subject line indicating it was forwarded. For more details on viewing the messages, please refer back to the Messages Overview and Inbox, as well as the document list videos.
Let's review. In this video, you learned how to compose a new message, respond to a message, which includes adding a note, forwarding a message, and replying to the sender or other recipients. You also learned how to view the messages on a document list.
That concludes this video within the series. Please click the appropriate link below for your next step. If you'd like to take a quiz, you'll receive your results in real time directly on the screen so that you can see how well you've done. If you answer incorrectly, the system will prompt you with the correct response. In addition, a confidential email will be sent to the education team to help us better serve you with our educational offerings. Second, watch the next video within this series that you are currently in. And finally, return to the video library main page. As always, feel free to contact us through the Resource Center or email us with any additional questions or comments.